All right, we're live. Happy holidays. Sorry, everybody. I'm totally out of it right now, apparently. It's great to see everybody here tonight. I see we have Tom McCart here, Anthony G's here, Lance DeBoye, um, uh, Dan Genovesi's here, Dan Lassard's here. I should say hi before Dan goes to bed because he's an early riser. So it's great to see everybody. Today we're going to be looking at Ryan Ottley, and I'm in a little bit of trouble for this one because Eric is a huge fan and a huge Invincible fan, and he has all of it. And he was all ready to go, and I don't. And so I went to the comic store today, and they are sold out. I mean, the show is huge, like the Invincible show, and I'm sure you guys are aware of it, but it's on Amazon, and not to be whatever, I'll promote it because I think it's great. But yeah, it's on Amazon. It's a massive hit, and as a result, I went to the comic store. He has nothing. Like, he's just been cleaned out. So I managed to get some Ryan Ottley Spider-Man stuff. Eric doesn't have this issue. So I put him in a pretty bad position. He's got like some of the greatest Ryan Ottley stuff in the world, and
yeah, I have it digitally here, fortunately.
So he's got it digitally. So I'm going to have this open on my desk. We're going to be looking at the stuff, and Eric is going to be following along with the digital copy. And I'm so sorry, Eric.
No worries.
So I wanted to go ahead and start with the cover with this figure of Spider-Man here,
Right.
and I'm going to go ahead and just go full screen. Just so you can see it, and we'll check back with Eric. Oh, and by the way, we have Eric here. Did I say that?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we'll check back with Eric in just a minute, and we'll kind of go back and forth. But I can't show you the drawing and show you the reference at the same time, otherwise. So we need like a double screen kind of a thing. All right, here we go. So I'm looking at the Spider-Man figure right here, and I just want to point out a few things before I just really get started. Ryan Ottley's anatomy is perfect. It's absolutely incredible. And I love how he uses curves really well and straight lines. Like in his shoulder here, it's very hard lined, and this is pretty hard line too, but he doesn't overdo it. This is a really, really straight line here. I did a Joe Quesada study stream probably about a year ago now. And I was talking about some animation principles of using curves and straights. It's something that Disney really does beautifully, and a lot of animation studios. And he's really doing that here, and he's really using that straight line to really emphasize the punch, the push of that arm forward. And that is a very deliberate decision. And just so many little things like that he does so well. Also, he doesn't over-render his work, which I definitely do. So everything really has to work in black and white with no, I mean, he's got some rendering and he's got some of that going on, but really his work works perfectly well without any of that. It doesn't need it because it's just so incredibly strong just graphically. And that is such an incredibly difficult thing. I don't think a lot of people really appreciate just how hard it is to make work like this graphically the way that he does. It's just beautifully designed form, and that's why I really wanted to talk about it. And we have a super chat. By the way, we're gonna have trouble with super chats, so let me just say I don't really encourage them for these because we'll be drawing and we'll be talking about this stuff, and I'm going to be checking the chat as much as possible. But it's highly likely that I'll miss them. But we have Ellie for $10. Thank you very much. He says, "Got my Spidey claws right on Christmas Eve. Perfect delivery by Santa. Have it overlooking my drawing station. Thanks so much, David." Wow, that's awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, and Russ, unfortunately, is traveling at the moment, so he won't be here tonight. So we'll be trying our best to monitor chat and everybody's fun stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be a little tougher without Russ. We really rely on him. So hopefully he's having a great vacation. And this stream, we kind of jumped on this one pretty quick, actually. I knew that we were going to do this one. We had talked about it, but we made the decision yesterday to do this, so it was all a little fast. And I mean, even if it wasn't, it's Christmas. We can't exactly fault them for not being available on Christmas. So when I'm drawing the head, what I don't want to do, I don't want to just draw like a circle. I really want to try and get a proper head working. So here's my brow, my nose. my chin. Here would be my forehead. And I can really work in, like a real proper, or at least mostly proper Loomis head in there. And I really recommend when you're doing these kinds of forms to not cheat things like heads. I see that all the time where it's a simple drawing of a figure, but some things like heads and hands just get fudged, and you'll end up with weaknesses drawing those things later on. So right now I'm just working in my form quickly just to get the pose. I want to get capture some of what he's got going on here, but mostly I just want to kind of get placement. So I am going to fudge that hand just a little bit right now, but we'll fix it in a minute.
Yeah,
And
he's
even
really
fudge,
really a master of using straight lines to convey energy. It's so good.
yes. And it's a real skill, and it's something that people just don't talk about much. And you see it so often with so many artists, like Ryan Ottley, Joe Quesada. There are other examples. I'm coming off the page.
Yeah, Eric Canetti, when he was on, he kind of
Eric Canetti. I highly recommend, if you haven't seen Eric Canetti's stream that he did with us. He really went into depth, more depth than I was really ever aware of, and just how much you can get with that. And if you want to have a more exaggerated style, but you want it to work fundamentally in a sound way, I could not recommend that enough. So I'm just gonna got for the plane of my hand, it's just coming out about like that. Thumb has a bit of a curve this way, and I'm just thinking in terms of really simple shapes. Now Ryan Ottley, he simplifies things to such an extent, he makes it look so easy, and so copying his work is actually relatively easy. Now making the decisions he makes, that's a whole other story, but you can get so much out of just these kinds of studies. So that's going to be a straight line here. Let's come in here. I'm going to draw my stomach area curving down. You can see in his picture, he's got a nice curve all the way through here, and he's following it with the lines of his stomach too. And as it bunches, his stomach gets larger here and smaller here. It's bunching in. So that would be basically, and just in terms of just some form lines, it'd be like this and like this. And I get asked all the time how to make these kinds of, torso curves and that kind of thing work. And this is really how you do it. You make everything follow along. Like if you're drawing a barrel, all of your curves follow along that barrel. And if you're twisting it, will I make this work, or is this going to be a disaster? Here we go. So now I've got something like this, and I'm going to curve it down like this. And so you really want to think of your form like that and follow along with it. And he is, again, so clear with his form. It makes it really easy to isolate and see all of that stuff. So my pelvis. I've been recommending Alan Davis, and I still do for ages. And I really feel like I want to start recommending Ryan Ottley even kind of more, because he's got such great form. And it's very angular in a way that I think is really appealing to people right now. It's a very contemporary kind of a style. And it's what fans and I think editors are looking for. So I'd really recommend it for that. Get that foot in there. My other leg. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten this up. As always, I don't want to go into too much detail because we want to cover as much as we can. We have Tom Teacher here. Good to see you, Tom.
This is so hard.
Anthony G says meshes well with your own style too, David. Yeah, thank you, Anthony. And it does actually. I find for me, I have a much more render heavy style, but Mike Mignola is so good to look at. And Ryan Ottley is really good to look at. If you want something that's more render heavy, looking at artists like this, Ryan Ottley is all about the fundamentals and the foundation and the form. And that stuff is by far and away the most important. So you can tack all of the detail and the rendering and everything on top of it, but having it be strong from the outset just makes such a big difference. And this is where, I find for me, and I'm not going to bother drawing his eyes in. Now, Something I probably should do, and I'm kind of not really doing, is really working in my anatomy. And this is something when you're learning, it's a really good idea to really sort out the anatomy and figure out where everything goes instead of just kind of roughing in the overall shape. So I'm going to try and be a little aware of that and try and maybe be a little bit more anatomical than what's in the reference. Like he's putting in what you need to see to make the figure work. I want to, and everything does fit together, by the way. All of his anatomy fits together perfectly. That's why it looks so good. Nothing's cheated. Everything, all the muscles come, from one point. Like any muscle sits between two tendons, like
Yeah,
this, and so you can't have a muscle that just starts somewhere and ends wherever, and it's everything has to interlock and make sense, and he does that beautifully. So I'm going to try to.
the concept that Eric showed us regarding basically the outside of his arm, his forearm being rounded and the inside being straight, really pushes that effect of the arm being thrown like force.
Yeah,
Very good.
for sure. Abbott says, "Need eraser. I like to make a sphere and roll it over my sketch and schedule." Hey, let's try that. I've never done it, so I always scuff it along. You know how many pages I've bent because my paper's not the thickest, and I'm going along and it goes, "Oh, can I put a big seam right in my paper?" Let's see. Give it a try. Okay, I'm going to say it's working, but it's a little tougher. I don't know if I'd have the patience for it. I'd rather put a seam in. I'm going to be honest. But I mean, it's a great technique. You just have to have a little more patience, or maybe a better kneaded eraser.
I'm having to redraw so much.
His hands too are so good and so simple. Now look at the way that he's drawn his this hand here and this one, but this one here, you can see it looks like it's got like a solidity and like a mass to it, but it also looks really designed and almost like animation a little bit, and that's such a difficult thing. Like it would be very easy to draw a fist. So here's my fist, and I'm going to just draw it in a really kind of flat way. And it's fine. But the way he's curving his fingers, and we'll do that here. And he's even coming out even like a little bit like this with his knuckle. Really, I don't do it that way. So this is why I really wanted to do this too, Eric, because I really wanted to I love how he does this stuff, and I wanted to just run it through a little bit and see. You notice so much more when you're doing this. I'm sure you notice that too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, look at how graphic this is. Ultimately, it's a very, very graphic thing, and it looks great. Love it. That's so much more graphic than I would ever do. And I don't know that I pull. You know what? I need to rest that thumb along it a little bit more. I don't know that I did it perfectly. I think I'd have to try that a few more times. Let's see how you're coming along.
You don't want to do that. I mean, you can't if you want. It's
looking good.
This style is exceptionally difficult. All those straight lines mixed.
Yep.
They're coming through blurred.
Slightly. It's not bad.
Okay.
But you can see how much you can get out of it really fast, And I like this is why this kind of study is so good. Like this one looks good. Your next one, and I mean we've done this before, and I've seen it happen where the next one just really starts to capture the feel,
Yeah.
All right. His chest is really pulling, and again, all very hard lines, which I really like a lot. I like working with Danny Miki. Tends to give things a little bit more of a roundness. He takes away some of that hard edge, but he does it in such a beautiful way. I love it. I mean, he's great. Uh, but when I'm drawing, I really like to be as graphic as possible with my shapes. Something that I don't always pull off that well. I don't know how. Let's see. This arm is so different than I would do it, and I'm just
Yeah,
going to kind of
it's
go with it. So he's got his. What are the muscles on the back of your arm, Eric?
the triceps.
Triceps. Yeah, his triceps are here really well defined. Then he's got a bit of a shape here too. Another shape here. His elbow socks in right back here. I think it all really works. It's just it's very different than I'm not used to thinking about it quite like this. And this is why this is so I'm going to say so many times tonight. This is why this is so valuable. So yeah, I apologize. I'm just going to be repeating myself. Something we're going to really be covering later on too on some of the other ones is the way he does his rib cage, which is another question I get quite a bit, and I think I love how he does it. It's really done in an anatomically correct but also really graphic way.
The front of the knee, I think, is really important too. There's a book that you showed me before. I can't remember the name of the artist, where the knee, before the knee meets the shin, a way to really show it graphically in this comic style. It's basically what he's doing here, even with the leg not fully bent.
Yeah.
Uh, it's very hard to explain without
Yes.
bringing the other comic out, but it gives it such a interesting, interesting look. Because naturally, one would just want to draw a straight line.
Yeah, absolutely, and it really does give it a lot more. Now you could round that very easily, but it's so much more powerful the way that he shaped it, and you are just not going to get that from life drawing. You know, not to down life drawing. I don't mean that at all, but I do mean if you want to draw comics, this is the kind of study you need to do. If you want to, not just comics, um, any kind of illustration, you need to be looking at what other masters of the medium can do. I mean, this is so useful for. I'm gonna complete that now. This is he's because he's got the webbing. He's going a little bit simple with the form here, and he's trying to not interfere too much. But that shoulder would just be about here, and I kind of wanted to find that in there just so I don't get lost. I think I went a little long with that leg. We'll just go with it.
Yeah, I was trying to get the proportions right. Gave up after a while.
Yeah, when you're trying to capture the feel of something, a lot of times proportion goes out the window, and that's all right. Tomikar says he really pushed Spider-Man's dynamic poses. Yeah, he really did.
Oh yeah.
And he's the best of Spider-Man artists in the sense that they're very dynamic and they're his own. It's you see it all the time, and I feel it a lot of times, honestly, when I'm drawing Spider-Man or a lot of characters. I tend to draw the same poses as a lot of people, and it's very difficult to look at how much I went way too exaggerated with the back of that foot. Let's fix that.
Tomic says that Ron Ottley told him he uses an animation approach to his drawing.
Yeah, and see, and it is a real approach with a whole school of thought, and it's not just some made up concepts. Sometimes it feels like that to me, just because I don't understand it as much as I should. Like it's such a different world, and I didn't come up with it, and so like listening to the foot was too big, listening to Eric and Eddie talk, I'm like, I don't even know what we're talking about right now. This is like completely foreign to me. All right, so I've got my hand roughed in here, and I just went with like just a simple kind of a plane, and so now I can kind of run my knuckles along that, and I really like how he's basically drawn a shape just like that, and now he's drawing the bottom of his knuckles here, and so he's not drawing all the way through, and it gives it a really nice. Yeah, I'm coming off the page here. It gives it a really nice feel rather than just drawing everything all the way through. I will see people draw all the way up through past the knuckle too. So you really want to be aware of that. And this, again, very difficult to get from life drawing. little tricks like that. And you won't pick it up just by observation, you know? You really have to try it. Get his thumb in here. A nice little curve to it, just like that. He's defined his tendons. Look at that, just right like that. Really nice. And now he's got, and not just a curve for that either, this shape. It's got a nice shape drawn in there. You know what? Let me draw his eyes. There we go. Eyes. So, Eric, in just a minute, what I want to do is move on to another figure.
Yeah.
And I want to go ahead and draw a bunch of these, or a few of these at least, just like this. And then we can go back in and start to look at some of the way he's defining some of the shadows. John Horchler says, look up Proco Force Michael Matesi. Yeah, Michael Matesi is absolutely incredible. I've shown his book on the channel. It's been a little while. He's got, I think, a new one out too. Anyway, his books are really, really great. And he takes something that is a bit of an esoteric concept, how to create force and energy in a drawing, and really makes it very scientific and something that's easy to understand. So I really recommend looking. And I'm very hopeful that at some point we can get Michael to come on the channel. Like, fingers crossed. And we'll see. Hopefully. All right. So let's see how it's coming along, and then we're going to move on to the next one. Nice. So how do you feel about it?
It's pretty tricky. I will say that. I think I need to try to get this focus a bit better.
Actually, that is much better right there. Okay. So I will say, I feel like the rib cage, the top of the rib cage, just kind of came off a little bit there. Like, it's a little low
over here.
Yes. And that's where it's going along the form, but it just kind of, like, you got your chest here. It's just a little, I'm pointing at mine, you can't see it right now, but just a bit. And that's where, like, doing these kinds of studies, you know, because he does very dynamic figures, and it puts you in a position of drawing figures in a way that is uncomfortable.
Yeah, his torso twist here is really great.
Yes. Okay. There we go. We're moving on to the next one.
All right.
I'm going to lift my camera and see if I can get more of this. It's a huge shot, so there. That's not bad. So this, Eric, just so you know, is the first 2 pages of the book. All right.
Okay, I can't rotate it. Hold on.
Shoot.
How can I do this? Might have to take a screenshot and then try to rotate.
Okay, while you do that, I'm copying.
Which one? Which one is it? Is it the?
It's the first double page spread of the same issue.
All right. Let me get a screenshot or something.
Here, bear with me. I just realized.
Mm-hmm.
There. I invited Jason to come in because I wanted to talk about the Kickstarter a little bit at 8:30. So I hope you guys don't mind. I want to talk about it a little bit and try and promote it. But I forgot to send him a link, so I just did it. All right, here we go. I'm going to draw this one quite a bit. What's that?
I need to figure out how I'm going to do this. Hold on. Let's see. Hopefully this will work.
Now this figure here, his chest, and this is a problem I see artists run into a lot. And I think this is going to be a really interesting one for you, Eric, because he's got his arm lifted really high over his head, and it really deforms the chest quite a bit, brings the shoulders in and up. And so let's see how we can get along with this one. So to start with, I'm going to draw my chest form here. I'm going to draw my head in, and again, I want to make sure to actually draw a bit of a head rather than just a simple ball. So I think that'll be enough. My rib cage is here. He's got his rib cage not really defined too much in an upward curve because it really wouldn't be at that angle. It's a tough thing, and he does it really well here. My pelvis. Now, with his arms up like this, what I'm going to do to start this is I'm going to draw balls like this, and I'm going to have my arms come out of those. If my arms were down, the balls would be kind of down here. So I'm going to start here. Got one arm here. I'm going to keep this really simple because it's just so easy to get lost with this. So there's one. The other one's coming toward me, so I'm going to make it come out just a little bit bigger. Obviously, I don't want a massive, to get bigger and bigger because the wrist gets quite a bit smaller. But there, like that. We're going to have to work on that a little bit, but I just really wanted to simplify that form as much as possible just to start. So there we go. And I think that's actually going to give me, let me draw the hand in there, but that's going to give me enough that my basic positioning is right. And that's really what gives people the problems with this kind of a form, like this kind of a movement of the chest. It's the basic positioning that once you get that right.
You know what throws me off here?
What's that?
Is the bend of the arm is lower than the top of his head, and foreshortening that soon for that pose is so awkward.
You're right, and look at this. I've got mine way up here. Let me fix that now. See, there you go. All right. Yeah, well, and that's where foreshortening. Now, with foreshortening, it's in some ways it's like more of an art than a science. If I'd made it higher than the head, then I'm foreshortening it less. So bringing it down, it's bringing it towards you more, which is obviously more kind of what you want. So yeah, that's probably a little more effective. The legs for this are pretty simple. I mean, they're very well drawn, but just in terms of a dynamic figure, they're relatively simple.
And just a note of how well he knows his anatomy is the rear side of his tricep is showing by the lat on the right hand side.
Yep. Well, and as another example, so on your leg, your calf is higher on the outside than on the inside, and he's got that really well defined on both sides. I mean, he knows his anatomy and he doesn't make mistakes, which is why he's such a great artist to study from. You don't get confused with a lot of extraneous detail, and everything he does is just right. Okay. That's my attempt. I think I might have got, let me see. This is where normally I'm not just looking at something when I draw it, and you can see how much my proportion just got whacked. So let me try and fix that. I got a little bit big with that leg there. And that foot, the foot was like 3 times the size of the head. That may be a little bit better. And this foot here, this leg is just a little shorter and the foot's curved in. All right. That's going to work for a start. And it is 8:30. I'm going to invite Jason in for a minute. I just wanted to talk about the Kickstarter for a minute here. What do I do? There we go. Okay. Hello.
Hey, what's up?
Thanks so much for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So the Kickstarter is going pretty well. It's the Marvel Art of David Finch book.
It is the Marvel Art of David Finch. I'm going to put a link in the chat for anyone who wants to check it out. Yeah, it's going pretty well. We're working on a few extra add-ons and reward and stretch tiers for everybody. So thanks for everyone's support.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, yeah, it's already done so much better than we were hoping. So we've added some new stuff. So what have we added?
Well, we're waiting on Marvel just to get the final approvals, but we'll be adding some comics, some Amazing Spider-Man 35 variants. We'll be adding a alternative dust jacket. We'll be adding. Hey, what's up, Mighty? What else are we adding? Oh, and some other some freebies. So hopefully they'll be all up online before the end of the year, if not next week, once Marvel approves the last minute changes that we're wanting to do. Basically, I mean, I didn't know we'd have so much support going into it, so we're kind of scrambling just to get some last minute things up to say thank you to everybody who has donated and taken part in Kickstarter.
It's turned out to be a bit of a scramble, actually. I'm pushing for trying to get an alternate cover. I've got one in mind that I really want to do. I don't know if we'll be able to do it. I've been bugging Jason about it. We'll see. And we have to go through Marvel, so it's not as easy as us just saying, "Hey, let's do this." So fingers crossed.
Well, I was gonna say that's not what I'm not used to that. I'm used to like, oh, let's just do this, do that, do this, on a dime, turn on a dime. So that's a little bit of a learning curve, I guess, just getting into that mindset of being organized. That's it's tough for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So the book is on Kickstarter. You put up a link, right?
Yeah, there's also one pinned.
Okay. And I know most of you guys have seen it. So, and really thank you so much for your support. Last week, it just blew up. I was thrilled. So, but if you haven't seen it, please check out the link at the top of the chat for the Marvel Art of David Finch Kickstarter. We've got some more stuff coming. Well, we've got the book itself, but we also have more rewards coming and some cool stuff coming up that we're working on now. And so I just wanted to take a minute to talk about that. And, not too much time because we got a lot of Ryan Ottley to cover. So thank you so much, Jason.
No, thanks for having me.
I see Jason is over 1,000 backers already.
We're just about at 1,000 backers.
Wow.
Just went over 1,000.
Hey, look at that. See, that's you guys.
Awesome.
Extreme Maybe says, is it possible to get a gold Finch pin?
Let me see. I think I have one or two left from the first one.
You stood up, got pajamas on.
So, yeah, I just put on. Actually, it was lucky.
Roll at home.
I did put on some pants for this, so you're welcome.
It was a trick question to get you to stand up. Yeah.
That's right.
It's my Christmas.
Yeah, they look pretty festive.
If you throw me an email, I might have one or two left, but if not, we're giving the silver edition or the platinum editions away on the latest Kickstarter for everybody who donates. So that'll be your other opportunity to get one. I think I have one. I have to go see if we can find some.
All right.
But can I make just a side note? When you were drawing the shoulders there, David?
Yeah.
And your balls there look different than my balls that I draw.
Okay. Thank you for that. I can only imagine.
That's all I have to add artistically.
We're a family friendly show here. Okay.
You guys enjoy. Are you drawing just Spidey stuff? What's the full figure that you're working on? Or is it just
this one is also Spidey. So I'm going to do a few Spidey. And we have actually... I just saw, I lost it. Crater asked if I can draw one of Ollie's heads, and I think that'd be a good idea too, to get into some of it. I mean, he does great everything. His hands are great, his faces are great. There's so much we could cover, and we always kind of have to, narrow it down with these things. So, but I cover as much as I possibly can.
All right. Well, I'll be watching. Enjoy, and thanks for having me. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
See ya.
Oh man, look at this. Now I need to catch up. Here we go. All All right, so I'm going to go ahead and light this down. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to try and roll it up into a ball and see what happens again.
You know what kind of does my head in? It's what just makes him such a genius is knowing when to do certain things and why. You know, I'm sure he hasn't. I'm sure in his mind it's just all. It's a process, right? And like that arm coming towards is so different than the one in the last one.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's very similar in a way. Like the way he's connected in here is still very, very similar to the last one. Where I tend to draw, so I'll draw my forearm,
Yeah.
like this. My elbow will be here, and then I've got a bit of a gap, and then I put in my,
Yeah.
and I'm used to that so it's got more of that kind of a thing going on as opposed to just a direct connection. So,
Yeah.
and you can see he's got that gap going on here.
Yeah.
Now, when your arm is straight, it lengthens your bicep,
I think it's
and
because
when your arm is bent, it shortens it.
Yeah. I think it's because
So,
he's trying to sell for the foreshortening.
you know what? I think it's probably more anatomically correct to do it the way he's doing it there because you're not
Yeah.
shortening the bicep.
Yeah. And
All
in terms of what I was saying too, in the last one there was a very straight line, but it's probably because he was, throwing a punch versus something a lot more
Yes.
relaxed.
Yeah, he's not thrusting the hand out in the same way, so he's not trying to emphasize it that way.
So good. We'll say
Again,
the
I'm not
suit kind of gets in the way of the rib cage. It's kind of hard to.
Yeah, I can give you a little bit of sorting to do. So he's got his arm pushed right up to the head, and let me go ahead and get mine as close as I can. Maybe my head's a little bit too small. Just doesn't feel like that's working for me. And this is copying anything. It's never going to be perfect, and it doesn't need to be. You really want to. And look at this. Look at how short that form got there. So let me try and fix that. Already with this figure, I'm having more trouble.
Yeah, it's he's so good at these poses. And,
Yep.
I find it's not the same with Joe Quesada. It's so hard to duplicate.
It is, and you look at it and you think, okay, I can see it all makes sense, and it's not so different than what I would do. But let me try and
So
clean this
good.
up a little bit. I'm really, having to be a little more considered with this one. It's just, there are a lot of similarities to what I would do. I would have said, oh yeah, I would do it just like that, but I really don't. And trying to copy what he's doing, you really see just a lot of those differences, which is such a great thing about doing this.
Yeah, just the silhouette is just so good.
Yeah.
Like if you were to make him if you were to just black the figure out, the silhouette would be so powerful. You'd know exactly what you would just read so much from the pose.
Yeah.
I think it was Eddie Nunez. I think Eddie Nunez told me the one time that silhouette is so important, and yeah, you definitely see it here. Same with Humberto Ramos and those guys. They're so good with silhouette.
Yeah, well, and that's really what makes more of a cartoony style work. It's very reliant on really, really strong design, more so than the kind of art that I do, where it's more just mass detail based. I mean, frankly, I feel like I lost that hand a little bit. This is turning out to be harder for me than.
Yeah, you know what's really tough is the pecs here, because I know they're supposed to attach to the deltoid and the arm, but
Yeah.
having them stretch this far is
Well, and I think it's valuable because it does stretch that far.
yeah.
That's how it goes, and I think it is a problem with a lot of people's art when they try to do this kind of a pose. Is
Yeah.
you don't realize just how much stress you get. I keep finding I'm all the way up off page here a little bit. I keep wanting to stop copying and just do it my way.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to, like, the way he's defining his forms. It's difficult sometimes for me to get just a natural feel for, which is why doing, I really recommend when you're doing these kinds of studies to do a whack of them, because it takes a while for it to start to feel comfortable, and you'll be amazed at how after just a little bit, um, you'll start to kind of pre-guess the decisions that the artist you're looking at is making, and that's really when you start to make it your own. I'm learning how to draw says, can you do a study of the Preacher and Punisher artist Steve Dillon? I think that'd be really interesting. He is such a simple artist and so concise. Like his storytelling is just, you look at it and it's very, he reminds me in some ways of John Romita Jr., where he just makes such great decisions with his framing that it looks simple. I think it'd be really interesting to try and kind of break down. And I've got a bunch of his stuff. I lost a lot of comics 2 years ago. We had a flood. Okay, you know what? I'm not going to go into that because I want to talk about this. So let's start talking about, and I think this area right here is a really good example of just how graphic he makes it. So I'm just going to go with a simple line at first. And it's basically like this. That's really all he's doing. Let's do the same thing on the other side. And it's so simple. It's very deceptive. Now this connects in here and this connects in here. He hasn't defined it here, but you can. And then he's just essentially doing line weight on his shapes. And that's it. You have some really, really graphic and great lats or whatever. What do you call those, Eric?
Serratus.
Serratus. I need to, you know what? I need like a list, so I don't look like such a dummy every time we do this. I went too long with mine there, but really great definition of the stomach muscles.
Yeah, very, very good.
Coming out just a little bit here. He's very, very long in the crotch here, truthfully. Longer than I would go, and I'm not going to go that long. And for any of you that have looked at my artwork and studied from it, you're going to find there are always inconsistencies and strange things. And I do recommend that if you look at it and you think, you know what, it's not quite how I think it should be, don't do it that way. Go ahead and fix it. And the more you learn about anatomy, the more you'll have the ability to make those decisions and improve upon what you're looking at. And now I'm saying improvement. We'll see. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but I'm making that decision there. If Ryan ever watches this, Ryan, I'm not improving on your stuff. We're learning. All right, other leg. And then we'll move on. How do you feel about doing a head? What do you think? You want to try one? We lost Eric. Hopefully he'll be back. I'm on my own. I thought it got a little quiet. All right. So there we go. And again, we'll go ahead, and he's got quite a bit more mass here. This is where I find, especially if I'm not as familiar with copying somebody's stuff and learning from it, my proportions end up suffering. And you should definitely expect that too. And it's really not that big of a deal. Dan Genovese says Eric left because he wanted to draw Invincible. Yeah, maybe. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and we don't have Eric yet, but let's draw a face. And let's see. I hope nobody's hyperventilating too much. I'm kind of trashing my comic, but I'm thinking let's do this one right here. So I'm going to start with my basic form. And the nice thing is, whoever you're looking at, whatever you're looking at for a head, this is a fairly standard kind of a head. So so I can draw my standard head shape, my standard head form. And so this is my basic Loomis form. This is my brow, my nose, my chin, and my forehead, and they're all evenly spaced. And I feel like my angle is just a little bit off, so let's bring that in just a little bit more, and then maybe bring the back of the head in. If I'm too angled one way or the other, I can just bring the center line in a little bit, and I can just squeeze in the back of the head a little bit, and generally that works. So just to get my basic form in. And so I've got even divisions here. He's quite a bit longer because he's got the mouth open. So we'll just make that change now. Top teeth, bottom teeth. I'm just drawing them as a simple, here, he's back. We're saved. There he is. All right. What happened?
I don't know. I got a low space warning, and I'm not low on space. It's very strange. I don't know. Unless OBS is really looking for more space. That was a first.
Yeah. So you can see how much longer I am than the chin I initially drew. But I've got my mouth open, so it does that.
Let me get this one.
And a very unusual nose. He's really great at caricature. So let's see if I can. And I'm roughing all this in, and I'm going to lighten it down. For me to try and drawing anything, like drawing a face or whatever, you're so much better off. We're doing a face, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to let you know.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the cover.
Yeah,
it's right on the next page from the double page spread. So this would be page 3, the top of page 3. So it's so much better for me to just lightly sketch the stuff in and get it placed and then tighten it up rather than trying to do a tight drawing and make it look like the reference. You'll fight with it so much more. He's got earphones on. Let's just go and we'll put it on. I don't want to make up the ear. I'm sure his ear form is a little different than mine, so I'm not going to just make it up.
Man, this is hard to not draw in your own style.
It is.
Wowzers.
It's so different than the way that I work. See, I kind of missed that there. Okay. So I got it roughed in. Let's go and clean it up.
I would love to see him construct that face.
It'd be very interesting. It really would. Jimmy Reyes art is here. He says he just finished all the pencils to Dragon Rage, 40 pages. So the next Dragon Rage is going to be coming up pretty soon, and I'm sure we'll be able to talk to Jimmy about that. I'm looking forward to it. 40 pages of stuff. It's going to be a huge book, so that should be great. I'm looking forward to seeing some of the art. And so because I've got everything basically roughed in, now I can go ahead and just start tightening it in and make decisions where I kind of came off the form. Now, ultimately, this stage here is really going to be almost finished. Very hard line there. Because he's not using, and on any of these faces, he's really not lighting them, which is, again, so different than how I work. I overlight everything. I have a really difficult time just working with line the way he is here.
Yeah, every line here matters.
It does. And I think that's why. For me, it's I'm so used to just putting a million little lines in and kind of getting to it that way. with the way he's working, you need to, and this is really the thing about his style is every line does matter. Every line is very, very considered.
Yeah, it's easier.
And it's easy to look at it and say, you know, it's a more simple style. It's not more simple. It might be more simple in terms of overall detail, but it's not more simple in terms of making decisions. It's much more difficult. Let's see if I can. I love the way he does his mouth, and I want to try and capture that as much as I can. So it really comes to a peak down here. There we go. And his teeth all kind of, it's a shape like this. They all angle in toward each other. Bottom teeth here.
So hard.
And they really look like they're sitting in the mouth well. Like they're so simple, but they just look. See, I need to do it. Look at how great. I love that mouth, you know? And it's so different than what I would ever do. I mean, there's a really different face than I would do. Give him his mustache. I'm actually, by the way, working with a bit of a soft lead right now just to make sure that it shows up well.
I should have done that too.
Akuma says simple doesn't always mean easy. It really doesn't, and very often it means much more difficult because he just can't take the kinds of cheats that you can get away with when you have a lot of detail. You can just really cover a lot of things, cover a lot of sins. All right, let's connect up here. Bit of an angle like this, and then it gets lost under here. I'm just gonna go very, very simple and graphic with the hair. We don't want to be here drawing hair. And then he's got I'm probably wasting time doing this. This is not helping anybody, but let's get it in there. There we go. And I'll just quickly start to work on some of his wrinkles in here, the way he does it, as best I can.
It's virtually impossible in finding.
Are you having trouble with it?
Oh yeah.
You know what that means, right?
Need a bit more.
Yes, but it also means we now really want to see what you're doing.
It is so different.
All right, let's take a look at how it's coming.
It is just so different to the way we construct things.
It is, yeah. Which is why it's so great to look at it. You know, it's looking really good though.
Mustache is in the way.
It is. So you kind of have to. Now, I constructed my lip and then put the mustache over it for that reason, just because I didn't want to get lost with it. So I kind of had to make it up a little bit, but I had a pretty good idea. Nice. You ready to move on?
If you are.
Okay, let's do it. I'm going to go ahead and flip my paper over. So I kind of earmarked a few pages in this before the stream started.
All right.
So here we go. Here's the next page.
Oh no.
Are you ready for that one?
I saw that one today and I was like, yikes.
Now this is going to be a challenge. What an amazing figure though. And this is what I mean when I say his anatomy is so strong at any angle. It just doesn't matter. And that's a Spider-Man pose I've never seen before.
I think my PC is crashing again. I'm just
Well, hopefully it won't.
No, I'm just joking.
Let's Boy says, great pose. Absolutely. Blue Boy Comics says, Battle Beast was my favorite, and he would have killed Thrag, except his ego made him cut himself with his sword to the fight. with Thrag was more equal. So the fight with Thrag was more equal. Thoughts, Eric?
How much do you want to know?
We won't go into it. But yeah, I am a massive fan of Battle Beast. And
Yeah.
I just drew a Battle Beast. Okay. So what I'm going to do is this is a complex thing to start with. I always start with my chest
Yeah.
on a figure like this. I could start with the head, and let's do that. So I'm just going to rough in a placement for the head and kind of get a decent shape going on.
Yeah, I really find since it's the largest mass, it's just so much easier to anchor a figure.
It is, but I've got so much going on with the shoulders. I really want to make sure that they are placed well with the head.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe setting the head first would be easier. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but so I've got my clavicles. Is that right? The muscle or the bones that every hockey player breaks, and that Meredith broke
Yeah.
actually, falling off her
Yeah.
horse.
It doesn't take much to snap that bone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Collarbone. That's what it is. Collarbone.
Yeah.
All right. And so it's basically attached like this. I'm going to draw my balls on there now. So here's one. Here's another. And then my chest is going to be...
Actually, wouldn't his clavicle on the left-hand side be in between be on the middle deltoid? On the middle? That seems a bit strange.
You feel like it's a little low.
Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah, you can't disagree. It kind of...
Yeah, the one on the right-hand side looks great.
Yeah.
Kind of throwing me off a bit.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Okay, so I've got his chest in here. His pelvis is more like here. And so, let's see, I'm going to draw that pelvis in there. And then we'll try and angle all the anatomy down into that. Now we have Ryan Ottley's version here to really kind of help us with that. So this side of the chest is going to be just a little lower than this side. The chest is extremely pulled again because he's got his arms up. So I've got that line here. My rib cage is basically going to start here if I was to draw just a flat line. And he has actually drawn a fairly flat, because you're looking really kind of down at it. You don't want to have a real curve to it. So it's pretty flat. And then he's got his stomach. And because I'm just roughing this, I'm just going to draw just a line for it. So it's going to be just about like that. He's got his rib cage here. And look at it. So he's gone up here, connected. And then he's got his the serratus connected right there. Really nice. I mean, it's almost like robotic in some ways. Like it's just so thought out. All of these forms are.
There's a lot. There's a lot going on here.
There really is. And look at how great that. I love this pose already, just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and just quickly draw with just basic tubes. Just get those arms.
I'm noticing what we saw in that first piece we drew with a straight line. I'm seeing it in his right arm and left arm. Well, his left arm, which is on our right. You can draw almost a straight line from his deltoid all the way to his palm.
Yeah.
And it just shows how much those arms are stretching.
Yeah.
So good.
So here's my other arm. My thumb. I'm going to draw it in really simple kind of graphic shapes right now, just to really get that lined in there. You can see the knuckle coming out behind it here. Some fingers. That's going to take a little work, but that's going to work. for now. So I went a little high with my pelvis. So let's just bring that down a little bit on this side. And this leg is not too hard to draw. It starts to get, this leg is going to be a little more difficult. But this leg should be fairly standard. Just like that. You can see the foot in here tucked in. Some of the lower leg, just about like that. Kind of rough in my anatomy. And now this leg, this is where things get nuts. So the way that I'm going to approach this, I'm going to draw the base of my, like a tube here. And then my knee is going to be just about here. And the leg has a real curve to it. And the bottom, look at how straight and flat he went with that. I kind of lost that a little bit. And let's go ahead and see if I can fix that. But really flat. And again, that's such an animation thing. Define that knee in there. Kind of get my anatomy thrown in really quick. Now the lower leg, and it's so beautifully done. It really is. So there we go. That's my basic kind of start. Now I'm going to, before I tighten this up, I just want to start to clean up my forms a little bit and get things just a little bit closer, just in the sketch stage. How's it coming?
The temptation for me is to start detailing way too soon. It's just fun.
Yeah. It's now this is why Ryan Ottley's so good to look at. Is this is going right behind the head, and I kind of lost that. Let's see if I can get that going on just a little bit more there. In some ways, it doesn't matter if mine isn't behind the head. It's a little different. Whatever, it's fine. But at the same time, the closer you can get, the more you're going to get out of it. So, I want to try and be as accurate as I can. All right, I think I'm good to start. All right, here we go. Darmex says Ryan Ottley may as well work with Masters of Anatomy. Yeah, you know what? Look, my opinion, you're not going to get a master like Ryan very often teaching anatomy. Like the best artists are really out there doing it for the most part, and that's I think with Ryan that you can look at his work and get so much from it that way too. So it'd be great to have him break it down. It really would, but let's see how you're coming along before I go ahead and just start here.
It's the shapes that are just so hard to nail.
Yeah, I think you really got it. Yeah, it's looking really good. See? So different too. Shaq Draws has a super chat for $4.99. He says, Dave, do you sometimes find yourself gripping your pencil too tight in the sketch phase? Do warm-up exercises help reduce this habit? I don't do warm-up exercises, and I should, because I find as I draw more, I do actually relax more, and I do press a little lighter, and I don't grip the pencil as hard, and it does absolutely happen. And I can feel myself when I haven't drawn for a little bit. There's a lot of stiffness going on there. I know some artists have some warm-up exercises, and maybe I should look into that. Generally speaking, though, I just draw badly until I, or in a difficult, it's really hard until I kind of free up. Laugh at M says, Dave, how do you feel about Brett Booth's dynamic poses? He's incredible. He's another artist that really just has everything very locked down. He knows his stuff. He's really, really good. All right, here we go. I'm going to start. Now, I mean, I've got most everything kind of defined in already. And that's really the idea. You want to, in the sketch phase, get things as realized as possible, so you're not fighting with it at this stage. And even at this stage, because I'm just working with an outline, it makes it really easy for me to adjust and move and fix things. As opposed to if I was really going with a lot of detail and a lot of detail, it'd be much harder to erase. Really nicely defined triceps here. So I'm going to draw a line here, and then you can see the other one's kind of bulging out behind, and then he's got this shape here, and this one here connecting. I love how he's defined that there. Really different. And I think it really works. And it actually really pushes that arm back in space too. He's got his collarbone here. We'll start to come into the chest. You know what? This is so when I learned how to draw, I did so many figure studies, and I would always do this. I would stop at the hand because the hand's a hassle. And hands were such a problem for me for so long. I had to do so much hand study over the years to try and compensate for the fact that I just didn't do it when I was learning. So and you can see I tried to skip it there too. I'm like, all right, we're good. We got the arm. Moving on. The hand's harder. Like as it is there, I truthfully don't really think I got the same power that he got in his hand. It's fine. His is better. And I guess the next step for me would be to try this a few times and figure out why his is so much better. Because it's one thing for me to say, hey, his looks better. It's another thing for me to understand where I went wrong. Get this shoulder kind of defined in here. You know what this reminds me of a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
In some ways, it reminds me of, shoot, now I'm going to forget the name. He did Nightwing for a long time. Really, really good artist. Chuck Dixon was writing it when he was drawing it. Anyway, great artist and one of my favorites. And I'm so bad with names. I'm so bad with names, especially on the spot. Like the minute I think, oh, I can't remember, then it's just gone. Forget it. Jimmy Reyes says Walter McDaniel. It was Scott McDaniel. Scott McDaniel. P. Kelly got, yeah, there you go. And actually, Walter McDaniel, I knew Walter. He was, he came into Top Cow shortly, like for a bit of time when I first started. So I got to know him pretty well. 30 years ago, long time. All right. So I'm going to start to define it in the chest. He's got the striations here. I'm going to worry about the overall shape first. Comes in pretty long here. I think longer than I did. So I had mine ending here. I'm going to lengthen it out a little bit. And that might mean that I'll have to cascade down and fix everything, but it is what it is.
You know, Dave, what he's doing with that leg coming forward is exactly what Eric Kennedy showed us.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah. Just looking at it now again. It's like exactly what he did with that arm when we were doing Deadpool.
Yeah, I wonder how much cross-pollination there is between Eric Kennedy and Ryan Ottley.
Yeah.
If they're, I'm sure they're aware of each other's work, but if they, look at it and are influenced by it, it'd be interesting to find out. We have Dennis Kelly here. He says, "Hey Dave, hey all." And Abbott says, "I forget who said it, but you have to think of drawing the hand as drawing a whole other body." Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Black Tiger 01 has a $2 super chat, and he says, "I think your hand is twisting. Ottley's hand is straight." You're right, it is. I'm gonna fix it in a minute. Let me finish the body, and then we'll try and fix that hand. You know what? Let's fix it now. It's gonna bug me. Okay, so here we go. Got my wrist, and it's so easy for me to just. Now, what you know what's going to happen, right? I'm going to end up just copying what I had before. It's going to be exactly the same.
Yeah, all the years of construction that you've done, you try to change it to, you know.
Yeah, try to sort it to what makes sense to me. And this is it's learning anatomy, but it's also definition. It's the way you choose to define it, and that's what you get from looking at other artists' work, and what is such a challenge to really get a grasp of. Better? I think it's better. All right.
So good.
I mean, you've been a fan of his for a long time.
Oh yeah.
Does this give you a bigger appreciation for it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I remember sitting reading through Invincible. A lot of times I would have to go back and reread and everything. So I'm sitting there trying to draw what I'm seeing as I'm reading it. And
Oh yeah.
yeah.
So you've done these kinds of studies before, then?
Yeah, some of it, as much as you can when you're starting out and trying to figure out what's going on.
Well, and it definitely helps to kind of know how to study it and how to
Yeah.
break things down. And until you do, studying and breaking down another artist can be difficult. So
And always this is just mind-blowingly good what he does, but also his ability to draw gore is insane. Just some of the battles in Invincible and just the carnage that goes on. He was so good at gore, which is incredible.
yeah, he really is.
Yeah.
I found, because we had the stream with Robert Kirkman, and for this one, trying to find something that wasn't.
Yeah.
Black Tiger now says Ottley curves fingers into the palm. You're blocking. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see. I don't know that that's better. I don't know if I can do better than that. All right. So what Tiger is saying basically is, earlier on when I was talking about this hand here versus this hand here, the difference, and saying I'm drawing it more like the more poor example, which I can't disagree with, but we all have our limitations, and I think that angle of a hand is very difficult for me, obviously.
Yeah.
And you can see, like, I fought with it there. It's a tougher one for me. You know who does it really, really well?
Mm-hmm.
Greg Capullo.
Oh yeah. Wow.
That angle of a hand he makes so nice.
We need to do a Capullo study at some point.
Have we not?
No, but that might leave me weeping in the corner.
Yeah, you and me both.
That's so good. I don't think we have.
No, we haven't. I don't think we have. Well, we'll have to do that.
That would be fun, though.
Yes.
Yeah. What kind of lead are you using right now? I think Dave's using HB. Or using
no, I'm using H.
H, yeah. I'm using 2H. That's probably a mistake. It's just it's better to have it a bit darker for the live streams.
Yeah, it kind of helps just to make it a little bit more clear. It's a little tougher for me to draw detail with. There are times when my paper is really kind of not dry for whatever reason, just humidity,
Yeah.
and I switched to H for that reason. It's not really a problem right now, and so I'm finding it's really going on dark and heavy. All right, so there's my attempt at doing it. That was a tough one.
That's brutal.
I do think that I could make it work. You know what? We're at 9:15. I want to try and detail this one out
Oh, the orange?
because, yeah, I think I could. I'd like to,
Oh, the whole figure.
because I think I can make it work from here. You know, like what I've got here looks it looks really rough, and I lost a lot of what he's got going on. I want to see if I can capture some more of it. Let's see how it's coming along for you, Eric. I apologize in advance. Well, we'll see, because this is, see, look at that. It looks good.
Yeah, I have so many questions. Like, you know, the muscle that rides along. So when you do your leg,
Yes.
you know, you have that muscle, whatever it's called, and then so you have that, right?
Yeah.
And then you have this muscle that runs along. I forget what it's called.
Yes.
So here it's going in that direction, which is weird because like my brain breaks there because it wants to go there, and I know it
Right.
doesn't. You know.
Yeah, and you know what? A lot of times when it comes to those sorts of, this is why knowing your anatomy is so incredibly important when you're doing artist studies. And it's so important to know where all the muscles go, because then you can, like, every artist has
Yeah.
their own little tricks, and I think he did that because graphically it just looks nicer,
Yeah.
looks a little better than if he had put that muscle in the way it is, probably a little bit more anatomically correctly. It's not as graphically nice, and I think that's a decision that he made for
Yeah.
that angle. But
So
being
H.
aware
Willis,
that
H. Willis got it right. The sartorius. That's what it is. Yeah. But yeah, I see what you're saying. It's it's kind of like adding shadows in places where it may not make sense, and then it looks cool.
yeah, it's, so there's a lot of decisions, and the more you know about. And by the way, I'm lightening this down again because I went so fast with it. It's still it's a little loose. I would never, if I was, and there are times I'll draw something like this and I still have to lighten it down, a bit of a third stage. All right. So the next thing I want to go ahead and do is start to put in some line weights. And that, I think, just line weights even will start to make this whole thing make a little bit more sense.
I'm gonna put it on you, Dave. How do I do that? There we go.
And so I'm using the same forms that I had before, but now and I say line weights, look at this. I'm just doing the lighting. So ignore me. But his lighting is it just makes sense so much that when I'm looking at line weights, it's really difficult to avoid just starting to go with the lighting. Like it's just very simple, very graphic, and very, very well done.
It's amazing.
Line weight under his chin here a little bit, and that really should start to pop out the head. And you really want to, as much as you can, when you're drawing your shadows in, define your shape and then fill it in, as opposed to just scribbling. I scribble sometimes. We all scribble sometimes, but as much as you can, you want to, like here, I've got a shadow that I want to draw just about here. I don't want to, he's got that peak there. I really like how that's defined. I'm a little too long there. So I lost that shape a bit, but hopefully that'll work. So I'm defining the shape and that's defined, and now I'm going to color it in. And that helps you keep a really simple kind of graphic, easily inked style, which is what you really want. You want something that is very, very well defined. if I come off of it here and there, I'm really trying to get the essence of it, not every single line. I don't know that you really get. This is different um, than doing like if I started and just started trying to draw. Okay, here's that edge here and that edge here. I'm really not learning the anatomy, so it's more of a constructive kind of study approach, which means that I want to be as close as I can, but I'm not going to kill myself if I'm a little bit off. I'm making excuses for myself, Eric. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah. All the disclaimers and you can. Yes, his left leg is so much going on. Incredible. Next.
Dennis Kelly says, congratulations again on such a great launch and continued success on the book, Dave. Thank you so much, Dennis. I really appreciate it. And Hulkster says, do you have any advice on how to draw tattoos on the human body, especially the head? Yeah, that can be a bit of a tough one. Really what I would say is you want to just draw everything, draw the head on its own. And then you have to start making a few decisions too. Like if you've got something that is really detailed and shadow would really conflict with it and make it confusing, then you probably want to choose lighting that won't do that. Like if you were to draw a tattoo on a head like this, it would be fine. There's really no shadow. But if it was, you see what I mean? And that's something, because I draw so much shadow, I run into that problem with tattoos a lot. They can start to conflict with shadows. Generally, if I'm ever going to do a tattoo on a character, I try and keep tattoos as simple as possible. Because you need to draw it in panel 2. It's not done with one panel.
So I wonder if Joe Quesada influenced Ryan Ottley. He must have.
Yeah, I don't know. And
I would imagine.
We need to get Ryan Ottley on to tell us.
Yeah, for
We
sure.
need to see if we can get him to come on and shed some light on some of this stuff. Will he do a stream? I don't know. Have we asked him?
I have, yeah.
What did he say?
I know.
Non-committal.
Huh?
Non-committal.
Yeah, I remember he said he would like to. I emailed, but he's probably pretty busy and all that.
Yeah.
Maybe we can see if we can.
We'll start hounding him. You never know.
Yeah.
Maybe we bug him enough.
Yeah.
All right. I wonder if I'm going even a little bit more angular than he is. But I don't think so. It's so foreign for me to be so angular, and I like angular drawing. And he's actually very strategic about his curves because he's not all angular. So here's a really good example again, Eric. If you look at this arm here, very, very curved and soft at the top, and very hard and angular at the bottom.
Oh yeah, that's incredible.
And that is such a animation technique.
Yeah, it helps push that stretch in.
Yep. Now you could make a different choice. You can make it hard at the top and curved at the bottom. Now, I'm going to say that would not actually work. I shouldn't say that, because with the way the arm's stretched, you're going to be much more stretched here and much more bunched here, so it makes more sense for soft here and stretched at the bottom.
I don't think we would see the tricep on both sides. I don't think. No.
Well,
I don't know. It works. Is it good to practice drawing skulls for anatomy? Yes, for head construction, drawing a skull is very beneficial. Obviously, you're not going to always do that because you don't want to draw a skull. It depends. If you have shorthand, a shorthand skull is very beneficial.
Yes, and by shorthand skull, my personal opinion, the Andrew Loomis skull, shorthand skull, essentially, like head construction, is the best.
Yeah.
And you can find that all of Andrew Loomis's stuff is available for free online in kind of PDF form or whatever. But just type in Andrew Loomis, you should be able to find it. He does great stuff that way, and rather than learning all of the nuances of an actual skull, which, I mean, there's value to that, but see who's got that much more angled down, and I kind of lost that. Let's try and fix that.
Greg L says, this one's killing me. May have to try. Yeah, it's a tough pose. I remember seeing this today, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Because Dave mentioned, I should try to get the comic beforehand, and I paged through it, and yeah, I saw this one too. So, it's a very, very dynamic pose, super dynamic.
Yeah.
There's another one. I think it's the prior page. It's a small little figure. Yeah, it's the prior page, the very first panel.
Uh-huh.
I mean, look how dynamic that is. That's how.
I mean, they're all great. Which one do you mean? This one or
all the way at the top, just like
That one.
bending beyond, all kinds of limits. Just it's incredible.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Brian Fellows Safari Planet has a good question. Hello, fellas. I have a question. I'm someone who wants to learn, but I find it hard to focus long enough when it comes to actually doing fundamentals. Have you ever had that issue, and was it fixable? I have it all the time.
Oh, yes. We all have that issue. Don't beat yourself up for it. Nobody wants to do this all the time. It's so much, you want to create your own thing, and you want to, spend your time not just studying, it's so yeah, that's totally understandable. But you do have to do this. This is what will make you better. So it's a sacrifice you have to force yourself to make. It's like anything. It's like eating your vegetables. Now, I have to be honest, I'm enjoying the heck out of this. So not feeling very much like vegetables right now. And I'll tell you what, Eric, I've got work I'm working on right now on my own. I guarantee tomorrow my drawing will be just a little bit different after having done this.
Yeah.
It is. And this is why it's so important. I'm an older artist now. I'm not young. And I refuse to go down just slowly devolving and getting worse over time, which is the natural way of things if you aren't careful. If you aren't actively trying to get better, you're actively getting worse.
Yeah, you see it happen all the time.
Yes. And the only way for me to get better is to be studying things like this. I'm not going to just do it on my own. So I make no bones about the fact that I do this, not as often as I should, really. But
it kind of dovetails into my earlier question is when I was mentioning Joe Quesada, because I think Quesada informed some of yours as well, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And the reason why I said that is because of is that calf muscle that you're drawing right now.
Yeah.
Where the knee goes into the right side of the calf muscle.
Mm-hmm.
Is something that I know you like to do. So when I was drawing it here, I was like, oh, I mean that it kind of speaks to Dave's, I guess, sensibilities here, I guess.
Yeah, actually, it's I was much more a big influence on Joe Quesada and Jack Kirby. Few people know that. Yeah, no, not really.
Because there's definitely, I mean, there's areas here where it reminds me of how you approach certain things, like the foreshortening here.
Yeah, and I will say that Ryan Ottley is not an influence for me too much so far. Like and this is why I really wanted to do this. I really wanted to start because I've been admiring his stuff for so long, and I wanted to start really studying it. And so many things that he does, because we have a lot of the same influences, and you can be sure he didn't learn in a bubble either.
Mm-hmm.
So I bet you some of the places where I got some of that stuff is where he got it too. And yeah, I always worry that there are some artists out there that just, they just come up with it on their own because they're geniuses. But That's not us. So we do what we have to do.
Let's see. I want to draw like Joe Mad one day, but I have a long way to go. Yeah, I would speak to Tomic. Tomic might have some pointers too there. He's in the chat.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of Joe Mad studies, and it shows.
It really does, and he's capturing it really well. And it's not his only influence, which is what is so important. Whatever artist it is that you look at, you don't want to be solely influenced by that artist. So deciding you want to be draw like Joe Mad, that's great, but you need to decide what you can bring to it. And by what you can bring to it, I mean, what other artists you can be influenced by. Find something complementary or something that's completely diametrically opposed. That can almost actually be a lot more interesting. I say don't scribble, and here I am scribbling in my phone.
Very tempting.
I really try not to, but it does happen. So what I've done here is not perfect anatomically to what he's had, but it never really is. It's very difficult to get something exactly on point. But there you go. Oh, his hand. Okay, I'm going to try one more time, Black Tiger. And if I can't pull it off this time, it's just beyond me. So you'll have to cut me a little slack. Greg L. Staticar says, any chance we can get a quick breakdown on how to angle the torso inward like this? Well, actually, we have been doing that here, and it really is how to do it. But I will break it down just quickly, too, just to kind of really show the thinking behind it. That already looks better.
Yeah, great.
Just the way that I did that. And I say the way I did that. That's how he did it. Okay, here we go. Last try. Let's hope for the best. Because to be honest, I'm actually not even sure. Like you said, it looks like I was blocking it, and I can't see it. I just don't know. So that's part of the reason why I'm having trouble fixing it, because I'm not seeing the problem.
Any advice on drawing the Adam's apple and neck veins and muscles? Dave's got 3 videos on drawing the neck and how to approach studying anatomy. I would definitely check that out. That'll help you there.
Yeah, hopefully. So yeah, there we go. That's kind of breaking down that figure. That was I got so much out of that. And you know what? Every stage you kind of just in the basic. In this stage where we're just kind of breaking the figures down simply, I get so much. But then really going in and refining the forms, you get so much more out of. So before we move on, let's talk about breaking this down. So I've got my chest angled the wrong way right from the beginning. Look at that. Got my chest here, and I'm just going to draw a chest shape. Just to start, I'm going to be looking down at it a little bit. So here's my head hole. Here's my kind of the top line of the chest, center line here. And we're not going to worry about any deformation or anything like that. I'm going to cut out an arm here and an arm here. And my head is going to, let's not do the head. Leave that alone. So I know that I want to curve, and I also want to start at this angle here and come into this angle here. And I want to be looking down at it. So I'm already looking down at it because I can see the top of the chest here. And now I'm going to draw this connecting. And if I'm drawing a tube, if I look straight at it, the lines are just flat. Obviously, I'm just looking straight at it. If I look down at it, my lines, I've lost it already, follow that shape. And that's how, that fundamentally is how you make this work. So I've got a line here, another one here, another one here, and we're just kind of starting to connect that through in a really simple way. I'm I'm not going to bother lifting the arms here, but let's just draw a chest. So there we go. Now I've got this part here because I'm looking down at it. If I'm drawing a chest straight, like flat, let's just do this. Here's my head. I say don't do this, and here I am doing it. And I'm off the page. All right. I'm going to give this quite a bit of curve here for my my chest, like this. And my stomach's going to connect in here. But because I'm really looking down at it, I really want to flatten that shape. So it'd be more like this, which is what he's done here beautifully. And now my stomach is just going to follow along what I've previously kind of outlined. He's got his rib cage coming in here. And now I'm not writing Ottley, so this is going to get just a little messier. But, you know, that said, that's how I'm going to kind of make that work. And that's really all there is to it. So let's see how you're coming along, Eric. Oh, we have a super chat from Shack Draws for $4.99. Thank you so much. And Dave's not perfect, but also perfect anatomy is my complicated anatomy. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And Jim Klein has a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Jim. He says, any tips on drawing the muscles in the inner upper arm and armpit? I'm having trouble with the place where the biceps, triceps, last, and corbronchialis meet. Now, I don't know what a corbronchialis is.
That's the muscle on the inner arm. I can show you here.
Okay, I do know what it is.
Yeah.
So, okay, I don't want to get too far out of things because we're doing a Ryan Ottley stream, but you know what? If this takes just a little bit longer, that's fine too. Okay, so my shoulder, if I'm looking down at an arm, let's just do it here. Well, let's do it from the side. Here's my shoulder muscle. Here's my arm coming out and my lower arm, my chest. So that all makes sense. When I lift my arm, here's my chest. We're just going to draw this from the side. And now my arm is coming out like this. This is just this part here. I'm not drawing this yet. So there you go. My chest is going to connect up like this. And this part here, you're going to see like this. And then your triceps connect in here. Your bicep connects in here. Your connects right in there. And then there's actually a bit of a band here that you can see. And I learned this actually from Ed McGuinness. So that connects there. And then your lats connect inside this because this is your shoulder. So obviously it's behind your lat here. And here's my chest or my rib cage here. I'm going very, very simple here, obviously. But there's my, and here's my bicep. Look at that. I lost that. It's not supposed to do that.
The line there is also the corbronchialis that goes towards the elbow.
And now notice how I've got a bit of a gap here. That's where shadow goes.
Yeah.
That's where my anatomy knowledge stops. There you go. It really is. It's a relative. Like when you're lifted like that, you just end up with a hollow there, which I tend to shadow out.
It's the arm here. Armpit hair.
That's where the armpit hair goes. That's right.
Yeah.
Black Tiger 01 has a $5 super chat. Thank you very much, Black Tiger. And he says, you're doing far and above what I can do. Learning how to see from your study. What I meant is the figures shrink pulling back into the hand like teeth. I think I know what you mean. I think I'm just not really 100% pulling it off. And thank you very much. And really, I always appreciate the, the criticism as I'm going, because we're all here learning.
So I made a mistake. That other line isn't the choriobrachialis, but I always view them as the same. They form like it forms like a triangle. You draw the choriobrachialis, whatever, and then the line going from the bicep to the elbow.
Yeah.
Such a great landmark.
Nice.
It helps with the bend bar too. Anyway.
Robert Tweedy asks what book this is. This is Amazing Spider-Man 37. There you go. Amazing Spider-Man 37. It came out just a few years ago. I think this is 2020. This came out. So it's 9:40. You want to do another one, or you want to light one of the original ones? What do you think?
Let's see. What other ones we have? Yeah, find it again. I don't know where I put it.
So I'm just going to show you guys. This is what I have planned on doing next. So we have this, or we could light one of the other ones. Comments from the chat. What do you guys think? Ellie says down for another. So yeah, let's do another. All right.
I'm gently weeping.
What's that?
I'm gently weeping.
It's going to be fun. And I'm going to grab another piece of paper here.
Get it over here.
I always run out of paper, and that's why. Oh, I didn't even see how yours came out in the end. Nice. Really came together, especially with the lighting. It does make a big difference doing the lighting and kind of completing it. You get a lot more out of it.
Yeah.
James has a $10, sorry, James, super chat. He says, I keep Ottley pages next to me while working on my cyberpunk comic and yours. And it's interesting. He seems to do minimal cross-hatching when rendering his forms, yet his work is so intricate and readable. It is. And that's just a master at work. Not needing to put all those little details and all those little things and distractions in there is just solid work. All right. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to start with the chest on this one. I could start with the head the way that I did last time. I don't know why I'm starting. Let me move over just a little bit here. I want to make sure not to run out of room for the hand. Okay. And actually, let's just make this a little smaller so I don't run out of room. So I've got the top of my chest. This is not my head. This is the opening for my neck. And so that's going to be my clavicle, whatever, collarbone. I don't know if that's, but there you go. Very, very foreshortened here. So it's going to be very flattened out. You won't see much down there at all. And I've already made a mess of this drawing a little bit. So let's just clean this up a little bit. All right. And my stomach area, all that you barely see there. It's really just, it goes into extreme foreshortening. My pelvis, again, you only see just a little bit of that too. And now my leg coming out of that. That's really all you get for that one. Now, before I draw this leg, let's put the head in. So I want to project the head out from the neck. If I was to just draw a head right here, you can see it really flattens. And he's got his head projected out perfectly. It's placed really, really nicely. And so at this angle, it's coming up just about like this. It's going to bring the head out just about to here. And so it's going to bring it. And he's made the head pretty big. So let's try and get that in again. I'm really making a mess. All right. And, draw as many lines as you need to kind of get what you have. Ideally, you want to be working really lightly. So you can just throw in as much as you need. My angle, again, is way off. Look, he's got his head much straighter on. So let's go ahead and...
I wonder how much of this. I wonder if he poses anything, or if it's just straight out of his head. I'm guessing it's straight out of his head.
Oh, it's straight out of his head. I mean, I don't know that, but I'm...
Yeah, I mean, no one's gonna pose this for him. But I don't know if he has like a any kind of figurine, or I don't know. I don't think
No,
anything.
he's not using any of that stuff. I never
Really?
used any of that stuff.
Wow, I mean, it's so dynamic.
I got to be honest, I don't think that figurines and those kinds of things are useful at all because they have major limitations. Like you can't raise the arms properly. Like this right here, none of that works properly. You need to learn. This is how you do it. All that stuff is, to me, it's okay. It can really work for lighting if you're doing painting. I think it's great for that stuff. But when it comes to posing, if you're having to use that stuff, it's because you really haven't studied it well enough. And I mean, this is what you need to study. You don't want to be in a position of having to copy this when you're trying to draw your own work because you'll just be copying somebody's art. But you do want to have copied enough of this kind of stuff that it comes naturally and easily. So my arm isn't huge for shortening here. I'm just going to draw this as a tube, really short, just to keep it simple for now. And then I've got another tube here. And again, I want to keep things pretty simple.
There's an important curve on this figure.
Now I can see some of my other shoulder. It was hidden back here. That's about where it was. So, and you can see, look at, he's got it perfectly placed. There it is. He's a little bit above his head. So I don't know that I didn't place my head well. Still curved more downward. You know what? I'm just going to erase it and try and fix it. I think I see what you're pointing to, Eric.
Yeah.
From one leg through to the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is such an important one.
Okay, I'm going to lower the head just a little bit here and try and slow myself down because I'm really not getting that. I'm not picking it up. And I'm going to put the center here. There we go. Hopefully that's a little better. And this is just not the way that I would draw. And like, it's phenomenal. But this is where, for me, I've got my library of poses in my head. And because I've studied them for so many years, but it also represents a huge limitation on what I can do because that library is like the extent of what I can do just out of my head. So I wouldn't do this. And that head angle, I think it looks great. So I'm learning. All right. So now I'm going to lift that arm up a little bit here so I can see it. I'm going to draw a tube for that arm going back here, another tube here, shaped a little bit. Can't see the hand there. The wrist is going to be just about there though, just like that. I mean, we could just kind of fake in a hand. And see, now this is where I end up just drawing what I know. And it looks terrible. I kind of blew that one, Eric.
That hand is whew.
All right.
Leave it at that.
Okay. So now I feel like I can get that other leg kind of defined in there. And what I want to make sure, first of all, is I'm coming out of this spot here. Really reminds me of Eric Canetti, some of this stuff.
That's what was earlier. I was like,
yeah, like since you said that, I can't get it out of my head.
We spoke about.
Yeah, a lot of similarities. So foreshortened. All right. And it's so great. It's very foreign for me. All right. So to get this hand in, I'm just going to start just by simply kind of getting the angle. My knuckles are going to come out like this. I want to be really, really simple with it. I've got one finger here, another finger here. And I'll have to refine this a little bit where it goes off. Knuckle, knuckle. But I want to think in terms of as easy form as I possibly can. I don't want to be, and this is where, I could look at my own hand and things get really confusing fast because there's just so much, there's no lines to define things. And so this is the advantage of having a master like Ryan Ottley who simplifies it. It not only has perfect form, but it's just so simple. It's like simple solutions are the hardest. You're saying that, Eric, with programming.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah, generally the best solution is always the simplest one. You spend so much time trying to figure out an intricate problem, and you have to write all this fancy code. And at the end of the day, it didn't need to be that way.
Yep.
So you end up scrapping everything you did and make it simple.
Hulkster asks, what is the best reference for Hulk body type characters? What do you think, Eric?
Is it Dale Hulk?
Yeah, Dale Keown.
Dale Keown, yeah.
And by the way, Ryan Ottley draws a lot of characters with that kind of body type. Now
Did
this is not quite.
Did he do Hulk as well?
Did he do Hulk? He's drawn Hulk. I know that.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a run that he did with Donny Cates. I think it was it.
Did he? Okay. See, I don't know enough.
But yeah,
All right.
he's done that. Your brutes are awesome, Dave. Your Bane and your
Well, thank you.
Solomon Grundy.
Yeah, I love Solomon Grundy. He's great.
I might leave out the flower hand.
Let's see how it's coming.
The flower, I'm gonna leave.
Normax says he drew Hulk, so you're right.
Yeah.
And Shaq Draw says, simple solutions are the hardest. Hit me right in my soul because it really is like that out here in the comic art world. Absolutely. Yeah. You know what? Look at that. See, here we are almost 2 hours in and already you're like getting a natural feel for it. Don't you think?
Yeah. His overlapping forms is really what's speaking to me this evening. Like just these over here. If you can get those T shapes, like you've mentioned before.
Yeah.
This forms in front of this forms in front of that form, that forms in front of that form. It's basically like a stair step all the way down.
Yes.
And if you can get that working, then it sells this part. Yeah.
All right. I'm going to start tightening mine up. So I'm going to go ahead, because the head's kind of in the foreground, I'm just going to start with the head. To me, he really reminds me of Eric Larson a little bit too.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's an influence for him, but definitely some similarities.
It would be fun to ask him.
Yeah.
Sure.
Even if we can't get him to do a stream, next time I see him, I'm just going to pepper him with a bunch of questions till he runs away.
Yeah.
He's the nicest guy. I mean,
oh yeah.
It's not like he's unapproachable. I don't know if you guys have ever met Ryan Ottley, but he is, he's a great guy.
Yep.
And to be honest, I'd love to do a stream with him, but I really wanted to just sit down and just do a study stream. I'm doing this for me, truthfully. This is something I just really wanted to do. So there's so little here. When it comes to this stage, there's really not much for me to do because so much of it is covered, and I really had to work through a lot of that form stuff in the previous step. So it kind of feels like, I'm not doing much now. But I mean, that's what you want. He is incredible at drawing backs too, by the way. And we didn't do a single back here. We're going to have to do a Ryan Ottley study stream part 2.
Yeah. Fax edition. It would be great if your comic shop can get some of the Invincible books in, because there's such a tome
Yes.
of.
Jim Pine says, wow, he has pushed this form so much. This is making me realize that I really need to study extreme foreshortening more. Absolutely. And I do hope, Jim, that you give this a try, because, I mean, you really, you see it when you look at it, and it's impressive, but you really get a sense of just how much is going on when you draw it. Sorry, Eric. I wanted to get that one in there.
Oh, that's right. Ellie says part 2 with inks would be epic. Yeah.
It would be fun, but I mean, honestly, it would be, for me, I'm all about studying the art, and inking. It's a bit of a different thing. Like we wouldn't really be studying in the same way.
Yeah.
I'm just so glad we're doing a study stream too. It's been a little while since we've done this.
Oh yeah, it's
I
great.
love doing these. I get so much out of it.
Yeah.
So he's got a decent amount. Like, I wanted to get that shape in there, and I feel like I kind of lost that a little bit just underneath his chest there. So I'm kind of lengthening out just a bit. And this is it. I have to admit, I'm kind of, so a lot of drawing. If you're copying something and you need to get things proportional, you're dealing with kind of negative space. I see the shape that I have here, and so I'm kind of recreating that shape here. The risk of that is you're really not learning the form. You're just copying negative shapes. It's not a studying way to draw. But it was helpful for me there to make sure that my proportions were right. I'm kind of making up some of the anatomy here because it's a little bit dark just in here. So
Yeah, I messed up, so I had to invent some anatomy.
that's all Eric Canetti right there. And I don't know that it is. Similar kinds of artists, and he might be influenced. And this is why it'd be really interesting to hear. What are his influences? Is Eric Canetti an influence, or vice versa?
Yeah.
All right. The way he defined his knuckles is really good, and even if we don't really get into too much detail with this figure, I do want to kind of play with that just a little bit.
Yeah, it's really good.
We have Michael Johnson Curry here. He says, I didn't realize you guys were streaming. We're streaming. It's good to have Michael here.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah. Get his hand kind of worked in, and then look at how short I went with that. Let me fix it. He's way up here with that knuckle, and I'm way down here. And this is it's a different. He draws differently than I do, and I'm really having to fight my own natural tendency.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
That's what we're here for. All right, and it looks better too. See. He's very, very short here. If you look at this, and I've extended my arm out quite a bit more, so I've really lost that. And unfortunately, I'm not gonna change my whole arm. I've already done it, so kind of is what it is. His is much more foreshortened in, so I just needed to kind of be a little bit more aware while I was drawing that. Unfortunately,
All right, I invented the hand on the other side, so I'm not going to draw flowers.
Let's see what we got.
Oh dear.
Yeah, see, that looks good. I like it.
Should have drawn
Actually,
the flowers.
It looks better than what I did.
What?
It looks better than what I did.
What did you see, Owen?
Here, that's what I did.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, thank you. Yours, I think the angle actually, how you have the fingers curved back the other way, it really pushes that arm back, that hand back. I like it more. I'm going to change mine. Hold on. There.
Was your? Yeah. Oh, cool.
Looks better, doesn't it? It does.
Yep.
Yeah, the way you did it looks better. All right. Oh, Jimmy Ray's going to bed. Good night, Jimmy. Thanks for coming by. All right. IFN1 says, now that we've recognized the Larson influence, has anyone thought up Kirby? If Ottley's influence wasn't Larson, I'd guess that he learned from where Larson learned. We all learned or stole from Jack. Yeah, everybody, even indirectly, artists that, and look at the, see, I lost. I know, it's going to kind of work. Even artists that aren't directly influenced by Jack Kirby are heavily influenced by Jack Kirby. This kind of foreshortening, this just wasn't done before Jack Kirby. And Eric Larson is heavily influenced by Jack Kirby. So yes, absolutely, you're right. So there we go. I gotta say, Eric, you know what? I want this form right there to just go in front of that one.
Yeah.
And the one other thing I want to do, I like how he's defined his fingers here. And so I just want to, he's got like a, and this is one of the few places where he is kind of rendering. So let's try it. Like this. He's kind of coming up like this.
Really is well done.
A very different way of rendering that I'm used to. So you can see it's looking a little awkward for me. I don't render like this. And I mean, the next step for me would be to find a way to do this, but more in a style that I'm comfortable with. I have trouble with just flatline rendering. It looks beautiful here. I don't mean that as a criticism. I just mean that it's hard for me.
We can employ that in painting for sure.
Yep.
It'd be so much easier to figure out those forms with paint.
Well, for you, maybe. Easier for me to do the stuff with. I've just been drawing for so long.
Yeah, the rendering is just very tricky.
It is.
And it's so subtle, and he just gets those forms perfectly rounded out.
All right. Well, it's 10:04, so I think we're gonna wrap it up there. We could do this all night, and it's tempting to just keep kind of going and going and going. And this is really what I recommend for all of you, whether it's Ryan Ottley or whoever it is that you pick. This is how you really bridge that gap, and all the artists that you admire and do things that you wish you could do. Well, this is how you learn how to do it. So I really, really hope, as always, that you guys will try this yourself. And I do recommend really that you try Ryan Ottley. He's absolutely incredible. So thank you, everybody, so much for coming and spending time with us over the holidays. And we have a super chat under the wire for Darmex for $5. He says, I will try to get to the original art expo in Orlando, meet the many veteran artists there, maybe possibly get a photo with them. Yeah, great. And thank you so much for saying that. Original Art Expo, both Eric and I will be there. Oh, and we have Greg L. Static Art for $5. He says, other than Bridgman, who would you recommend for learning the structure of anatomy? For the structure of anatomy, I would recommend you can type human anatomy into Google and you can find where all the muscles connect just with simple or complex, really. They can be pretty complex anatomical kind of, it's like a mapping almost of where all the muscles go. And so learning where they all go and where they all fit, that's really important. But then learning how to make them work dynamically, that's where Bridgman really comes in. So you can't just go into Bridgman with no anatomical knowledge. But yes, the Original Art Expo that's coming up the end of January. So hopefully some of you guys can make it there. Both Eric and I will be there. So we'd love to see you. Greg Elstad Card says, thanks so much, Dave. Also, what expo is this? This is the OAX Original Art Expo, the last weekend of January in Orlando. So if you're in the Orlando area, or if you're not, and you want to take a flight and go somewhere nice and warm and you maybe see the world afterwards, I really recommend it. But I hope you guys are having a great holiday. I hope you guys have a great new year, and we'll see you soon.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Dave.